All right.
Good.
David. Oh, you're muted.
Boom. There we go.
You had another great pitch.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to find it here. And you've been a regular commenter for a while, because I get to recognize certain YouTube accounts via the comment section, because I'm a pretty religious comment reader. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I think the most applicable information is I grew up atheist Catholic in Windsor, Ontario, right across from Detroit. And my dad believed that religion was necessary to keep us all from murdering each other. It served a very important role in that way. And then I became a Christian in my first year at the University of Windsor. So I became a Christian at the same time I felt everyone else was leaving. I was kind of like, oh, this is really, where's everyone going? Like, I thought this was really interesting. And very quickly after becoming a Christian, people were kind of asking me to become a leader within the church. And I didn't know what denomination I wanted to be a part of. So I was originally part of the Christian Missionary Alliance Church, but then someone invited me to a Pentecostal church, but it was on a different day. Great. I'll go to those two. And then there was a Presbyterian. My girlfriend was Presbyterian for a while. So, okay, I'll do that as well. And then I became part of a Messianic group that met in a room they rented at a Holiday Inn, like one of the conference rooms. And by the end of it, I think at one time, there was 4, maybe 5 different groups that I was going. Like, I loved it so much. I would have gone every single day if there was a program running every single day.
Wow.
So I very quickly became very interested in Messianic Christianity.
Okay, Grim Grizz wants you to explain what Messianic groups are.
Yeah, so I don't refer to myself as a Messianic Jew. You might come across groups like Jews for Jesus or anything like that. I am not Jewish in any way. Basically, what happened was I learned about Passover. So because I grew up Catholic, I wanted to do a Holy Thursday, right? Where we would do that in the Catholic Church. We had our liturgy and we would go through the Last Supper. And we used to meet on Thursdays for my college and career group. It's part of the church I was involved with. And so I said, we should do like a Passover. And my pastor said, well, if you figure out what it is, you can put it on. I'll let you do it. I think
smart pastor.
Yeah, I've realized how intelligent he was, where he said it serves 2 purposes. 1, you empower people for what they're passionate about. And number 2, you get them to shut up about saying this is what you should do.
Exactly. Oh, that's what you think should happen? Be my guest.
Be my guest. And I took him up on it. And someone in the church knew someone who was part of a group that was practicing this kind of thing, meeting on Saturdays, doing all the Jewish feasts and stuff. And so I met up with them. I did as much research as I could. And that was 20 years ago. And I've celebrated Passover every single year. And for a while, I got brought into churches to do them, to do like a Passover meal. Because as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, this is clearly, there's so many things that are being referred to.
Yes.
And that Christians have no idea what any of this stuff is about when you're just given a little piece of bread and a little Jello shot of Kool-Aid.
Yes,
it's just not the same thing. But as I got more and more into it, this part of what I think. I think I started asking completely different questions from other people that I knew that were Christian, because they're addressing this Protestant evangelicalism, and I'm asking questions through understanding Judaism.
Yes.
And so they're doing all this deconstructing based on how the church currently is. And I would go to churches, but everyone would think I was weird because I was practicing things very differently, understanding things primarily through a full biblical perspective, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. And then at one point, I go off to Bible college to become a pastor. But while there, I want to just be a lay pastor. I kind of come to the conclusion by the end of my time at school that there was big problems with the structure where, like, I went to a church and someone asked me to teach an adult Sunday school, and I talked to one of the elders, and an elder said to me in these words, "Well, we pay Brad and we want to get our money's worth." So as an elder said that to me. So it kind of became, and I found out about house churches. I started asking more and more questions about, okay, what did early Christianity look like? Because even churches asking me to come in to do presentations around Easter for Passover, like, I started realizing, wait, Passover isn't like church Easter. It wasn't a pastor at the front. It was a father with his family, and started thinking more and more about the structure of church and to what extent I felt the structure itself was a problem. And then also the Messianic thing added this completely different dimension, which is I would get brought into a church. I'd be halfway through Bible college, just doing my BA, and I would do this presentation, and someone with 20 degrees, with his MDiv and his master, like all these different things, they would say to me, I didn't know any of that.
Yep.
And I was like, this is crazy, because I'm focusing on this thing that isn't, I mean, the time I went to Bible college, no one was talking about, I mean, you had to get really fringe to be talking about Second Temple literature.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To be talking about rabbinic material or anything else.
That's changed.
Yes, absolutely. It's changed. Even my university, it's changed as well.
Because Second Temple Judaism has become it's become a really hot thing in New Testament studies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for me, I'm like, finally, because I've been really interested in all these traditions for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it seems like over really the last 5 years, people have become really fascinated.
Yeah.
Then because I got into lay ministry, I work a day job, and my day job is such that once I understand what I'm doing, I can pop in the earbuds and listen to whatever I want while I'm working. And so I basically need an infinite amount of information to listen to.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the profile of someone who listens to a lot of YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. So there were parts where I was like, what can I become interested in now? Because I ran out of things, and I would constantly be looking into this other stuff.
So how did you find the corner?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned this in my little blurb. Yep. Someone sent me, because I'm just outside of Toronto, I know someone who Jordan Peterson was their counselor.
Yeah.
So before anything was happening with him, someone sent me his TVO stuff. I was watching his lectures before anything was when it was just was what us Canadians were finding out about him. Okay.
Yeah. And his TVO stuff is interesting. Those are fun videos.
That's right. And again, if you are looking for hours upon hours of things to watch,
Jordan Peterson is ready to help.
That's right. And particularly when you're into interpretations that other people have not heard of. I was very interested in psychology long before that. I kind of was just watching different conversations, and I mean, one of the things I was hungry for were people that actually understood what he was talking about. Because I was very frustrated when I talked to Jacob. I think I even mentioned this, that I was frustrated by when people would talk to him and had never talked to him before.
Yes. Yes.
Then
Yes.
I'm just like, if you understand how he's addressing things, he's not difficult to follow. But if you've never come across it, it's just, I mean, Pajot talks about the same kind of stuff. So I started listening to other people talking and trying to see, is anyone else picking up what I'm getting from this? And like Pajot, of course, immediately became of interest to me because I was like, oh, at the time, I think the way I said it was, this is like if Jordan Peterson was actually a Christian. Because he's kind of he's not really. But so I got into some of the symbolic stuff, and because of understanding things like Passover, symbolic understanding of stuff
Yep.
is really where it's at. So
Okay.
that's how I kind of stumbled across a couple of things. I think I watched a Chris Pacow video that was condensing stuff, and I had a conversation, and then I from there I saw Emily Verdun, what's it called? Mud
Oh
Hut?
yeah, Mud Hut.
Yeah. So I kind of started a friendship with her.
Well,
Where
you've got
we've
some
had
art going on in your background there, so
yeah. I actually, here, I'll show you one. I started doing visual art, and the first thing I did was, her picture of Jonah. I made it into a carving. So
oh,
that's
cool.
yeah. So that's yeah.
Very cool.
And then I changed some things. So I don't know how clear that is, but yeah. Started doing stuff like that, and so I connected with her. I talked with Chris. I talked about Passover a little bit, and that angered Jacob. And then Jacob wanted to have a conversation with me.
If you ever want Jacob's attention, he wears his buttons on the outside, so just push him. He'll come. You'll
I
find
didn't
him.
do it it wasn't intentional. But so then I connected with Jacob, and we've had a couple of conversations, and he was really open about it. And so I've had a couple of conversations with him at this point. And then I'm now invited to host a conversation on judges with someone,
Oh, good.
with Jason Almontree.
Yes.
And so it was like, who else wants to have these conversations with me? Who else is interested in this kind of stuff? And when I go to a church, it's very difficult. I'll talk to people, and it's very difficult to find people
Yeah.
that are interested in these topics.
Yeah.
And so I kind of searching for that kind of a thing to find.
I think so. I did a video this week on, autodidacts.
Yeah.
Sam Tiedemann sort of, when he said that word, I thought, oh, they're part of, I know a bunch of people like you came into our local Jordan Peterson meetup when we started. And right there, I thought, usually we have the problem of churn on YouTube because you need, again, a near infinite amount. YouTube tends to provide that, but
Yeah.
what that means is you're going to churn through stuff. And
Yeah.
after you're churning on YouTube a while, the shallowness of YouTube itself, because of the rituals of YouTube, means
Yeah.
you're going to churn all the faster. And actually the resolution of that are people.
Yeah.
And that's part of, again, the reason why my vision, which has sort of manifested itself in what some people call the corner, is the end of churn is people.
Yeah.
Because, even it was so interesting because Vervaeke, with his last conversation with Peterson, talked about his, he's made a lifetime commitment to his partner, which is sort of like marriage, but he doesn't use that word.
Yeah.
But, I hear people say, well, I wouldn't want to live forever because I'd get bored. But here's the funny thing about people. You can, to a degree, sort of hit a plateau with people. They sort of become they sort of become mapped territory. But what at least we've seen in our lifetimes with something like marriage is that I've been married to my wife 36 years. We've known each other 38 years.
Right.
And because we're both changing, there still is mystery, and we're even mining our childhood sometimes. And so that's the in part, I think, part of the image of God in people is that they're bottomless, and that many of our representations are not. And so I actually think I've thought many times that this little corner is actually the telos of YouTube, because YouTube bottoms out. And once we get beyond YouTube into the people and into the community, you're in far deeper waters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think like a lot of people are also external processors where you talk through your thinking. And so what good is it to absorb information as a product?
Yes.
It should be absorbed as a conversation.
Yes.
And where does the rubber hit the road? So I think in my little blurb, I also mentioned I'm kind of leading a house church. Well, how that happened was I had seen all of Peterson's biblical series, and COVID hit, and I was part of a artist community of actors and stuff. And my community of actors weren't really not doing well during COVID, right? Lockdown. Their community was doing shows, seeing each other through this particular context, and now no one can perform. And it's not just we can't perform, we can't see each other, which is how we play, how we hang out, where our community primarily is. And so my wife and I were leading these kind of we did script readings, we did game nights, and then I kind of said to everyone, because I was understanding some of the situations that people were going through my understanding of Genesis, I kind of said to them, realizing that this could actually be something that non-Christians were interested in, what if we put no pressure on belief? And I had a big enough piece of property that we could have campfires. What if we meet together, and I don't care what you think about this story, but we're going to treat the story as we're going to take it seriously, and we're going to try to understand ourselves through the book of Genesis. And I got a group of 12 people, of which only my wife and I were Christians, to say, yes, I want to do that. And we were kind of surprised by it, because they knew we were Christians. They're artistic people. They were open to having conversations, but I did not for a second believe that we could get a group of our friends to be meeting every single week to talk through the Bible.
Isn't that funny? I mean, churches are doing, and this is part of the Peterson thing too, because if there is a hunger, there's a lot of question about the Bible that's out there, but this format and structure and how church goes about it just puts up this wall, and you can get through that wall.
Yeah, when you're talking, it was so interesting though, because when you're talking with people around like in their 40s and 50s and everything else, when you're having conversations with them, but they grew up completely non-churched, it's also, I describe it as like the first time I saw Casablanca. You're just like, oh, that's what that's from. Oh, that's what that's from. Oh, that's what that's from. Right.
Yep.
They started seeing it everywhere in their own favorite movies that they didn't know were quoting things, because, and that actually became part of my pitch, is that we all understood. It's not just we're going to understand ourselves through this story. It's that everyone understood themselves through this story. So you're going to feel more a part of a much larger conversation. And that started at the beginning of COVID, and we're still doing it. We're a couple months into COVID, I guess.
Awesome. Well, David, I knew this. I was going to have this frustration. I would love to keep talking to you, but the format of this is we're going from one to another. So how can people find you, David, if you want to be found?
Yeah, if people want to contact me, my email is david.j.buzatil, based on, you can see my name right there. J is in the letter J, @gmail.com. I got a YouTube channel that has basically nothing on it. It has a conversation I have with Emily and a video essay that took too much time, so I stopped making video essays. So if they want to find me, I'm there.
All right. Very good.